When I became an attorney, I chose to stay here because my friends and neighbors needed a lawyer they can count on. I believe that if you're hurt on the job, you shouldn't have to go it alone, especially if your employer or the insurance company tries to bully you. You can count on me to get you the workers' compensation benefits that you deserve. Even if it gets rough, I'm not going anywhere. I'll stand my ground right here where I've always been. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.
Back with you here for another award-winning segment and round of segments here on Gridiron 2021. Dr. Ron Poniewasz, joined by Professor Larry Kelly in his championship yellow Shenango Wildcats gear. Welcome aboard again, Larry Kelly.
Thank you, Ronnie. Remind me again, what award did our podcast win?
Second place in sports podcasts. We don't have it behind us because it's waiting for you to be picked up as normal.
Okay. Was that a statewide competition?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Okay.
The three of us.
I seem to have second place nailed down.
Yeah, well.
Let's try to do better here.
I can't help you on the baseball coaching. I mean, obviously you guys did a great job. There's no backing down off of that one. That's a great job by the entire program, athletes and coaches. I can help you on the podcasting part. You know, I can say let's do better on that.
Let's do better. Get our the director of the Groove Ship. Tell him to tweak a few things up. I don't like second place. I mean, if they're keeping score, I want to win. It's just a bad habit I have.
Yeah, well, everybody should want to win, right?
Well, not everybody does.
The
question is, do you want to win? Do you want to win more than you hate to lose? That's the question.
I tell you what, I hear a lot of times people say I hate losing more than I like winning.
And I think you'll hear most winners tell you that.
Yeah, got a guy that knows a little something about winning, and he won the Athlete of the Week award last week for the period of last week. Neshannock's Peyton Weaver, junior running back linebacker, 5'8", 175 pounds, 12 carries, 194 yards, 4 touchdowns. They came on totes of 56, 5, 5, and 95 in a 49-6 win over Freedom on Friday night. Larry, Peyton was filling in, as you know, for Cameron Owens, the next man up mantra, so to speak. And what a performance for Peyton. He had more rushing yards Friday night than he did the previous 3 games, I believe, combined. He had 178 coming in to that game.
Well, I actually saw Mr. Weaver run the ball because I was out at Neshannock last Friday night. I had an opportunity to see my niece, Isabella Hassan. She is class president. She crowned the homecoming queen. So we were out there to see that. And I saw Mr. Weaver tote the ball. He's an impressive young man. I talked to Matt Mangino a little bit. As you know, Matt works at Luxembourg, Everett, Kelly, and George. And he liked Mr. Weaver. He said he hits the hole and he hits it quick. And, he's tough to contain once he gets through the, past the linebackers. And, that's evident by the fact that he averaged 15 yards a carry, more than that, actually. And I think, quite frankly, he might have had a touchdown or 2 called back. I remember one early in the game that he had that was called back. So, yes, he did more than just fill Cameron Owens' shoes. He carried the ball for the Lancers and was a big reason why they, took care of Freedom, 49-6, big win for them.
Yeah, I also was on the scene for that game. Larry, the 56-yard run, I believe, early in the game for the Lancers, got through the line. Pretty much about 15 yards, after he took the ball. Do this. What am I doing, Larry? What am I doing? Help me out, Larry.
I don't know. What are you doing?
After
what are
15 yards, play the fight song. He was on his way to the end zone. Play the fight song. Only 15 yards after he got the ball. He played the fight song.
The kid hits the hole quick, and once he gets through the initial, containment, he's gone.
Yeah. And
that was evident. And didn't he get one called back early in the game, if I'm not mistaken?
He may have. There were some penalty issues, I believe, for both teams. Certainly more for Freedom, which very, very undisciplined football team by Freedom. If you remember, the unsportsmanlike conduct and the mouthing off to the official got a Freedom kid kicked out of the game 30 yards in penalties after their lone touchdown.
Yeah. No time to be picking up those kind of penalties, because the touchdown with the extra point would have tied the game at that point. That was early in the game.
Sure. And then the 95-yard run, that was a big part of the game because it was 20-6 at halftime, and Freedom got the ball coming out of halftime, went right down the field depending on if you were still there at the game at that time. They hit a big pass play, and the kid got knocked out of bounds right around the 7-yard line. And 3 plays later, they have 4th and goal at the 5, did Freedom. And Neshannock made a stop, got in and turned the ball over on downs. Otherwise, Freedom goes in, it's 20-12 at the very least, 20-13 or 14, depending on what they're doing with the conversion. And very first down, first play after that, Peyton Weaver gets the ball, gets into the line, and it didn't appear that he was going to be going 95 yards. He got into the pack, and the next thing you know, there he is. He squirts through, and he's on about the 25, 30-yard line, and everybody else is 10, 15 yards behind him.
Yeah. He basically did everything that Coach Mangino told me he could do. Hits the hole quick.
Mm-hmm.
Once he gets into the secondary, he's tough to contain. And he was special on Friday night. Peyton Weaver Jr., very worthy of Athlete of the Week.
They could play the fight song after about 15 yards of that 95 yards.
I like that move. Yeah. I can get the trombone player, tell him to loosen up his lips, get ready to start playing it.
Let's not give athletes any ideas.
There's only one fight song I know, and that would be the one that's played at Newcastle.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the only one I'm familiar with.
Yeah, what a great performance for Peyton Weaver, and like Fred Mazzocco was telling me, the Midwestern Conference is a conference, Larry, that you have to have more than one running back, as it's a physical conference, and their luxury is they have 3 or 4 running backs with Cameron, Peyton Weaver, Matthew Ionelli. They have 3 or 4 guys that they can, trust with the ball in their hand.
They also got some pretty good guys up front blocking, Ronnie.
Yeah.
And, like I've always said, if they got the right guys blocking, you and I can run the ball. But, what makes Peyton Weaver special is when he gets into the secondary, he's tough to contain, and that was evident on Friday night.
Absolutely. Neshannock 1-1 bounces back from that tough loss the week before at Mohawk, and 4-1 in conference are the Lancers.
There's one thing I learned growing up around here. People should look out for each other. Be friends and neighbors that you can count on. So it bothers me when people who are hurt in automobile accidents get bullied by the insurance company. I don't let bullies run over my clients. I do what I was taught growing up. Step up, stand up, and speak up for those who can't. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.
Back with you here on Gridiron, and this is our scheduled portion. Again, we have another week where not everybody plays on Friday. We have another Saturday game, and most of them are Friday, but one Saturday game. And now, this week, we can actually say everybody is playing a conference or region game. It's taken till the month of October, but here we are. All right, we'll start it with Montour, 2-3 overall, at Newcastle, 3-2 overall. The Parkway opener for both teams. Larry, here we go. Game on for the Canes. The first 5 were I don't want to call them scrimmages, but they were in preparation for what we got on Friday night for the Canes.
In the past several years, Newcastle and Montour have been 2 evenly matched teams. These oftentimes have been one-score games, and I suspect that this week at Taggart Stadium will be another one-score game. Newcastle has them at home. Let's hope that they've learned something from the game that they had last week. If Newcastle can control some of the penalties that they've had trouble with, I think they win this game. It's a home game. Again, this is an explosive offensive team, but in conference play, you can't get behind the sticks. And when you do, it becomes very difficult. So I think the Hurricane will take care of business on Friday. But it's going to be a close game. Turnovers, penalties are going to determine who wins this thing.
All right. I tell you what, Larry, I'm going to step up on this one. Don't really give too many predictions out there, but you know what? I've said it all season long. I don't care about non-conference. This is conference. I'm taking the Canes. I'm putting my money on the table. The Canes. I'm going with the Canes on this one. It matters. This one matters. This one matters.
Well, you keep saying that, but they all matter.
They all matter.
I used to play basketball on the playground. I didn't want to lose. And sometimes when I did lose, I got in a fight with my teammates or the other team. They all matter, my brother. They all matter. But in conference games, you want to take care of business. There is a little more. It's like in baseball. Look, I don't start my ace pitcher in a non-section game during the season. I don't. I go with others because I want to win. The game matters, but conference games, section games, they matter more. Mm-hmm. This is the first one. And again, if Newcastle doesn't beat themselves, I think they will beat Montour.
Yeah. It's a talent thing, and Newcastle is pretty much loaded with talent, all across the board. Offense, defense, special teams, great athletes. I like the Canes in this one.
Okay.
Prove me right, Newcastle. Prove me right. All right. Neshannock, 1-1 conference, 4-1 overall at Elwood City, 0-2, 0-3 overall. This is a Midwestern Conference matchup. I believe Elwood City is up to 19 straight losses. The band conductor might be worn out by halftime. Play the fight song, Larry. Play the fight song. We're going to hear this fight song a lot.
This one will be over by halftime. It'll be a mercy rule game. And again, it's going to take a while for Elwood City. It's just going to take a while. And, it's the hardest thing to do is to develop a winning culture. It's the toughest thing to do in any sports program.
Mm-hmm. Union 1-1 in conference, Big 7, 3-2 overall at Cornell, 2-0, 3-1 overall. And just last week, I was asking the question, who beats Union? Oh, geez, that didn't last long. Northgate beat them last week, although they did have about 7 or 8 guys out last week.
What I heard, I was talking to Mike Gunn today. He came to my baseball practice, and he told me 7 starters were not in uniform for Union. And when you have limited numbers, mm-hmm. which they do year in and year out, you can't lose 7 starters and be effective. And I think that was a big reason why they got beat last week.
Right.
Now, again, Union's a good football team. If they have everybody back in uniform, I think they win at Cornell, even though it's a road game. But they need everybody back in uniform. When you have 7 guys out and all of a sudden you're not just going to the second tight end, you're going to the third tight end or the second, wide out or the third running back. In a high school, in a small high school where you have limited numbers, it's very difficult.
Yeah, and Union was up 16 rip at halftime. They look good. They just evidently ran out of steam that night. And here's the interesting thing, Larry. Union has a lot of athletes on their teams. They don't have a lot of players, but they always have athletes. They always have skilled players. But the problem is when you lose 7 guys, you don't have that same skill set in the second and third strings as you were talking about. But like you say, they are a talented football team. And a lot of years they're like that. They'll have a great running back, a great quarterback, skill with the receivers, and a couple of good offensive linemen. They just don't have that same skill set and that strength in numbers down the line.
Football is always a numbers game. There's going to be injuries in a long season. And, the championship teams, they have depth. They have players who can step in and, do the job, as well as oftentimes the starter. Union doesn't have that luxury.
Would you say must win for the Scotties? I mean, obviously every game is must win, but.
Oh, well, yes. In that Class A, they take a limited number of teams. Union needs to win this game, if they want to have hopes and aspirations of moving forward into the playoffs later in the year.
Riverside 0-2, Class 2A Midwestern 0-4 overall. Hitting the road against Mohawk, which is 2-0 in conference, 3-2 overall. Mohawk will got to take care of business. It's nice to get that win against Neshannock. Nice to get that win last week over, I believe, New Brighton. You got to take care of business against Riverside as well.
Those are two big wins for Mohawk. This Mohawk football team is a lot better than everybody thought they were, and they'll take care of Riverside. It's a down year for the Riverside Panthers. You're not going to find a Riverside football team that starts the season 0-4 very often. You're just not. These are tough kids down here. They have a rich football tradition, but they're playing underclassmen too, and it's pretty tough. Oftentimes at the high school level, freshmen and sophomores don't beat juniors and seniors. Mohawk, they're going to be 3-0 in conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mohawk should beat Elwood when they get to that point. They should beat Freedom from what I saw against Freedom. That would be 2 wins so far. Riverside, Freedom, Elwood. That would be 5 wins. So that's a pretty high standing in the conference. Should be no worse than third place in the conference. When the dust settles. Here we are looking way down the line, but I don't think it's out of bounds to think that way with Mohawk.
I'm not so sure they're going to finish third if they start this season 5-0. Again, that's a good football team, and to beat Neshannock as they did, and to really hold their own on the line of scrimmage, because I think Neshannock has an excellent offensive line. I won't say that Mohawk dominated the line of scrimmage, but they certainly held their own. That's a good football team, and good things are going to happen for them moving forward.
Well, certainly not third place guaranteed, but you still have Laurel and Neshannock. What I'm saying is, at worst, third place in the league. And who knows? I mean, they could still go head to head against Laurel and get that upset win. They already hold the tiebreaker against Neshannock. So,
right.
Absolutely.
Right. That'll be a great game, Laurel and Mohawk. It's going to be a great football game.
As they call it, loser leaves town match. And that match is going to be in Burgettstown this week. Shenango 0-2 in Big 7 action, 0-4 overall at Burgettstown, 0-2 in Big 7 play, 2-2 overall. Loser leaves town match. This is pretty much where it's at right now. Put up or shut up. You got to get a win in this game.
Well, I talked to a couple of the coaches at Shenango tonight on their football team. We probably have more young men in uniform on my baseball team right now than they have on their football team. They've been ravaged by injuries. And it started last winter when Tino Campoli, who would have been the best quarterback in the league, had what amounted to something similar to Tommy John surgery. He not only didn't play football, baseball for me, but he can't play football. And, you have a senior quarterback who is going to be the best quarterback in a conference. You lose him. Now you're starting 9th and 10th graders at that position. And then they have 4 or 5 other players get hurt who were starters. There's just not enough depth, at Shenango. It's a small school. They're not too dissimilar from Union. That's where they're at. And that's exactly why they're struggling. They've lost key people at key positions this year.
Sure. But possibly a silver lining, if there is one, can we find it with Shenango, that they're playing young kids and maybe the strength is in their future and possibly next year and beyond, maybe they'll be right back in a position like last year where they'll have all that experience and cohesiveness together and can make another run?
It's certainly going to help. There's no substitute for experience, no substitute. I'd like to see these young kids have a little bit of success before the year's over. Nothing succeeds like success. Once you develop that winning attitude and winning culture, then great things can happen. Once the kids start believing, and then great things can happen. And, look, the Shenango coaching staff, I know those guys, Jimmy Graham, They're good. You saw what they did last year when they had their full complement of players. They'll be good again.
They didn't get to the WPIL semifinals by accident last year, that's for sure. They had a darn good football team. That's obvious. And like you said, if Tino is healthy, this team is not 0-4 right now. Maybe 2-2 at the very worst. That's how good of an athlete he is.
I'm biased, but I think he would have been the best quarterback in the conference. He'd have been first all conference.
Tyler Staub would have been battling him though for that, because Tyler Staub's pretty darn good too for Union. I don't know.
Tyler Staub's quarterback. He is a very good quarterback, but I like my guy Tino.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. You're allowed. All right. And Wilmington 3-0 in region, 3-1 overall at Sharpsville, which is 1-1 in region, 3-2 overall. This is District 10, Region 1, classification 2A. Wilmington's looking fine after that uncharacteristic loss in Findlay, Ohio against Liberty Benton.
I mean, they're looking like the Wilmington Greyhounds. They do a lot of things right. Wilmington's going to win on Friday, but this game may be a little bit closer than what most people anticipate. I think Sharpsville has a pretty good team, and they're always well coached, and they seem to always play Wilmington tough. But if you're going to beat the Greyhounds, you better be great that night, and I'm not so sure Sharpsville has that kind of firepower. So I look for the Greyhounds to take care of business again.
Larry, 54-0 was the score at halftime against Lakeview on Friday night. It turned into 54-22. Is that cause for anything for a coach to be a little bit upset about that maybe you want to see your JV kids? Okay, if you're not going to score a lot, maybe at least punch one in and maybe limit the other team to one score as well. Really, the JV kids lost 22-0 essentially after halftime. Still, the varsity win is what they wanted, but do you want to see something more competitive from your JVs?
Well, I want to make sure that they are executing the offense and the defense as they have been coached. A physical mistake is acceptable, right? You get beat on a pass pattern, or maybe you miss a tackle. What you don't want to see are mental errors where you're not in the right defense, or you're not in the right coverage, or you blow a coverage, or you're not executing properly as you have been coached on the offensive side of the ball. Those are the things that trouble me as a coach. When my JV team's out there, listen, you can make physical errors, but all of the things that we coach you up to do mentally, I expect you to do, and I don't want to see mental mistakes, mental errors. And I'm sure the Wilmington coaching staff feels the same way. The other thing, too, when you're up 54-0, I'm sure they didn't throw the ball in the second half.
No.
And, I'm sure they weren't running any double reverses. I'm sure everything they were doing was pretty vanilla. So, I don't think it's a big issue with them as long as their JV guys were executing as they've been coached to do.
Keep them healthy. That's the name of the game. That's the big key right there. That's probably the number one key. Keep them healthy, and then let's talk after that and see where we stand. And they did from what I hear. Everybody was the after halftime and probably even before halftime was fine in terms of health. Okay, in our Saturday game, we have Laurel 2-0, 5-0 at Freedom, which is 1-1, 2-3. This is a Class 2A Midwestern Conference matchup. And Larry, anything else you'd like to say this week on Gridiron?
No, the football season's halfway over. As you said, we're starting conference play now. The teams are starting to clearly identify who they are and what their identity is moving forward. You still have a chance to get better. And oftentimes the best way to get better and to learn about where you are and where you need to be is to get beat the way the Newcastle Red Hurricane got beat last week. Again, you can learn a lot about yourself. You can fix it. You can get better, and you can move forward. And I'm hoping that's what Newcastle does this week. But I expect Neshannock to roll, Mohawk to roll, Laurel to roll, Wilmington to roll. Those teams have kind of identified themselves as to who they are. and what they're going to be moving forward. So it's getting exciting, my friend.
Okay, you touched on it briefly about Laurel being the best team in Lawrence County. Homework assignment as we are halfway through the season. Next week, we will reveal our top 8 around the county, our great 8, if you will. And we will let you know where they stand in my view and in Larry's view, and then you can do the same. But remember, this has nothing to do with, do we think this team will beat this team or what have you. This is where we see it. This is our eye test of the best teams around Lawrence County. Remember, don't grab the AP Top 25 poll and say, you can't tell me Fresno State would beat Auburn because Fresno State's ranked ahead of Auburn. This has nothing to do with playing a team on the field. This is eye test and who's got the best team in terms of how they've performed the first several weeks. So
I like it. I'll do my homework. I'll be ready for you.
All right, we will do that. That'll be our topic next week. The Great 8 around Lawrence County. Enjoy the games, everybody. We've got some great ones around the county and outside the county as well. And good luck to our coaches and athletes as well. For Larry Kelly, I'm Ron Poniewasz. This is Gridiron 2021. We will see you back here next week on Gridiron.